Alrighty, Diablo 4 players, let's go over what are going to be the best Seneschal powers for your pet in Diablo 4 Season 3. So I've got a few different ways that you can play. If you're looking for the pet to solo the Uber bosses, there's a build. If you're looking for the best burst damage, I got another build. And if you're looking for kind of the best overall around build, I've got another one. And I got another one that's going to be on the defensive side. So if you're having trouble with surviving certain aspects of the game, we're going to go over the top 4 best builds. Now, keep in mind, depending on the class you play, instead of getting, let's say, maybe a hurting, you may want to go ahead and get poison, or you may want to get chill or slow. It depends on your build. I'll have to factor that in. But I think opening up with gameplay is kind of the most important thing, and I've been actually checking around over on D4 Build, checking out some of like the meta players, as well as checking out over on the Mobalytics and Maxroll to go ahead and give you guys some of the best ones from some of the best players, including, of course, myself. So let's go ahead and hop right into some gameplay that I wanted to show off for people that have kind of also min-maxed the pets. This one is going to be from Rob. This clip over here is showing you guys how the Fireflies can interact with the Pierce. And this is recorded before the update of the bonus damage. Now, look at the amount of damage. He's not actually attacking the boss at all. What's happening is he's attacking so he can proc certain buffs, and he's buffing up the pet. So the pet is definitely no joke. There's another clip by Yugioh, which was actually Syndicate's clip that he's playing, but nonetheless, there's a lot of different ways that you can actually just have the pet kill the Uber bosses if you want to. Now, this one's sped up a little bit, but it depends on the class that you play. I'm just going to go ahead and mention that. Take it with a grain of salt, as some classes can buff up the pets a little bit stronger than other classes. So what I've noticed on a lot of builds is they're using it more so for utility than just having the pet solo the boss. While that is cool, and I'll give you guys that specific build, and all of these will be pinned down below as well as in the description box. I've got 4 different best pet builds, but now that we've seen some gameplay showing you guys that can actually kill stuff, let's go over how it works. So the most flashy one, the most cool one for a lot of people, is specifically having the pet solo content. And while I want to say it's cool to do, this is more so to show off, because the pet, on average, is usually going to be lagging behind, which is why most people opt to do utility for the pet versus making the pet being able to solo a boss. Also, you're going to attack the boss, you're going to apply vulnerability, but if you want to sit there and be AFK, hey, I'll have that build for you. So again, these build guys are specifically for the pets, nothing else, okay? So there's no like weapons or anything equipped, but if you do happen to have certain things that can increase damage while some X condition, the pet does benefit off of your stats. So if the other stat or legendary or unique boosts your stats, it can actually beef up the pet as well. That's why Barbarian is just going to be one of the strongest ones, because, well, you just get more stats on Barbarian because you have that extra 2-handed slot. Okay. So now that the intro is kind of out of the way, I'm going to mention some kind of rules here, otherwise some people may expect the same results, and they may not be playing a build that can actually buff up the pet. So over here, what's actually causing the massive amount of damage in the 2 clips that I showed you guys before is actually with Firefly. So Firefly is going to deploy a Firefly, and this is actually getting buffed very soon, and it's only 10% increased buff, but still, it's already killing some of the Uber bosses very fast if you buff it up correct. So it's going to do some sort of damage after duration, and it's going to explode multiple times after that. Now, if we add in a multi-shot to add more projectiles, and we have the seeking support, what that's going to do is home in, like it's basically a homing rocket that's going to go in on them, and it's going to auto-seek the enemies. And then if you combo with piercing, you're going to be able to pierce up to 11 enemies. So what happens is the Fireflies go in, they explode, and then they're going to go ahead and pierce, go through, and then they're going to hit the boss again and again. And this is where you get that insane amount of burst DPS, especially if you get the crits to actually land. So this is essentially what's doing most of the damage in any of the clips that you'll see when people are doing Lilith, whatever. That's what's doing the damage. Now, if you want to be AFK, you have to apply vulnerability because it's a huge source of damage. So honestly, the other source of damage doesn't really matter too much, but a lot of people are opting for Tempest. This is going to go ahead and electrically charge the enemy. It's going to deal a bunch of damage, and people are running efficiency, so it's going to have the ability to gain more crit strike chance, because remember, your pet can also crit. And then you need some source of vulnerability, otherwise you lose out on a huge multiplier. Now, in a realistic build, you do want to apply this yourself if your build can do it. And then Swift support, so it gets to have increased attack speed. So we're just using it basically to proc the bonuses of whatever is here, so we can keep on attacking faster, and then we get all of our main source of damage from Firefly. Keep in mind, the gameplay that you guys are seeing is going to be relatively min-max, so these stones and these support stones are going to be at the highest level. So if you're expecting, to be level like 10 or even level 50 to one-shot and kill Duriel in just a few seconds, like the intro clip via Rob, keep in mind, you're going to have to level these things up, okay? Keep your expectations realistic. So this is going to be how you can actually do the solo bosses here. Now, this next one up over here is going to be for the best burst DPS, which is still kind of more for flashiness, but it's still a very good way to actually do a big burst of damage, because how Diablo 4 is kind of designed is you find a pack, you see some elites, you kill them, and then you move on to the next pack and you keep on going. So this one is still pretty good, and this is what a lot of people are using as well. Again, this is more so for burst DPS. Now, also, one to mention, Evernight and Genesis are some of the most rare ones in the game. They are the unique ones. If you don't have them, don't worry, you can still play this basically the same. Just choose whatever thing that is going to benefit your character. Well, that could be burning, poison, whatever condition that you need to meet to get some sort of bonus for your character class. Like for the Druid, you can get bonuses with poison that you normally would have to be like a werewolf to get. You can still be werebear and apply those poison conditions to get some sort of a buff. So right here we have Firefly, multi-shot, seeking, piercing. So this is going to be a big source of damage because this is the burst build. Like if you need a window to go ahead and delete something, this is really good. And I've seen a lot of people utilize Flash of Adrenaline. It's kind of more a flashy thing to just kill bosses with, but this is you doing the damage, so you still need to apply vulnerability somehow. This one we're running Evernight, Genesis, and Tactical Support. So this is going to allow you to pump out as much burst DPS as possible. A lot of people will really enjoy this playstyle. Once Flash of Adrenaline goes up, that's your window to go ahead and do a bunch of damage. Firefly will then proc, and this is going to be your biggest source of damage. And again, the difference between this one and the other one is really just the Flash of Adrenaline, and that's where you get to do a big burst DPS versus kind of being AFK with the pet. Now, the next build over here, this one is going to be universally good, so this is like the generic one that I suggest most people to actually play. If you are leveling, if you are progressing through the game, this is going to be what I would recommend. And this is what I've seen consistently on majority of the top builds. So, Lightning Bolt is a really good one because it just launches a bolt and it arcs to other targets. Think of it kind of like Chain Lightning, so to speak. And you can actually make it so it hits more times. And then this is where it depends on the class that you're playing. Like, for example, with Pulverized Druid, you can actually run a poison support, so you can actually proc other things. Like in Venom over here, you and your companions deal bonus crit against poison enemies. Without the pet, you normally wouldn't be able to do that. That's why this one over here is kind of depending on the class. You can play Burn, you can play Bleed, you can play Chill, you can play Slow. You're playing like, let's say, Pulverized Druid, you can also apply the Slow, so you get your bonus with one of the glyphs that scales off of bonus to like slowed enemies. So it automatically applies the Slow, so you don't have to run the legendary aspect that slows when you hit with like an Earth skill. But this one's kind of up to what your class is. And then you're running Breaking Support. So you have a skill over here that launches out, it hits a bunch of enemies because it can hit additional enemies. Then you're running the whatever support that your class needs. If you also need vulnerability, this is very, very important because some classes like the sorcerers don't have a consistent way to apply vulnerability. Unless you're playing specifically Frozen Orb, you need that consistency with vulnerability because, well, Ice Nova is not on a 1-second cooldown. So Breaking Support is going to be good for a lot of builds. If your build already has consistent vulnerability, like you're playing Barb or Rogue with the Exploit, you can automatically apply that and most things will die within 3 seconds. But it can still help out against bosses, unless you're playing in a group. Usually in a group, someone else will apply vulnerability too, so you can drop this one. But again, these two are kind of important to kind of arc and hit everything at once, apply those conditions, and then you get your damage. Next one up over here that a lot of people really like is Tempest over here. So it's going to cause the enemy to take more and more damage, proccing multiple times, and then it could spread to other enemies. And then the bonuses are actually applied if Tempest is reapplied to the same enemy. Next up over here, we're running Efficiency Support. So this is going to give you increased crit, and your pet can crit as well. So this is going to be great for bosses. And then we've got some Safeguard Support. So when this is used, it's just going to give you some flat damage reduction. And then lastly over here, we have the Resource Support. So this is a tuning stone that makes it so it's going to grant you 15 primary resource when the supporting skill first deals damage. Keep in mind, as you level up, these all these numbers that are like kind of showing up will actually change. But this is great for a lot of builds, especially early on when resource is a problem. And also if you scale resource generation percentage, this will be excellent for that. So this one over here, it's going to proc multiple times. It only will work off the first time it deals damage, but since it can actually spread to the other enemies, giving you extra sources of resource can be great. But if you're playing a build in the endgame where resources are not a problem, maybe you're playing R-Clash Sorceress, or if you've got the Tibalt's pants, then you can swap in and out. Keep in mind, these aren't set in stone. This is just kind of like, on average, when I get asked consistently while I'm streaming, like, what are you playing? Sometimes I'm like, guys, I still don't happen to have, like, the best ones in the game. Like, Evernight and Genesis are arguably the best. This is the video for you guys. These ones are pretty much the best ones, but it also depends on the level of your support stones as well. That can definitely matter. Now, as far as survivability, there's kind of some flexibility here. So I think auto defense is really good because it shoots down projectiles. Ever seen one of those like bone archers that shoots out one of those giant arrows and one-shots you off screen? Yep, auto defense could prevent that because it can shoot up to 30 enemy projectiles. There is one that gives you a barrier. Now, if I go over here and edit, so it's kind of up to you what you want to play for this one. I think Reconstruct is one of the best ones. So let's go over this one first. So this one, it's a channel thing that just regenerates HP, and this is actually going to be getting a buff. If you combine Reconstruct, you can use Evernight and Genesis. These are kind of arguably the best ones, but there's not really any other ones that are super important here. You can add Fortification to your character if you don't happen to have these. Again, these are some of the better ones for the defenses. These are for survivability here. So with Reconstruct, it just heals you. It's just really nice to have. And then with Tactical Support, it's going to decrease the cooldown, so you get more of this sort of heal. I actually really love this one. And if you are leveling, this is one of the best ones that I can recommend. And then for the auto defense here, there's actually two that I think are kind of good. So there's also the barrier that can help out. So the barrier one is okay as well. So if you want to choose that one, it's up to you. I would rather take 0 damage than, well, I have some sort of like barrier that exists there that, well, I could still maybe get one-shotted if it hits hard enough. Well, auto defense is really good. Running things like safeguard support to give you extra damage reduction, extra duration, so it can actually last long, because this only lasts for 5 seconds. I mean, this is huge. It's up to 30 projectiles. Now, it doesn't work against bosses, so if you're playing against a boss, well, then you're going to have to select something else over here. And I'd probably, again, recommend running the one where it gives you like a barrier. This one can be pretty good. And then Voluminous over here makes it so the size is going to be increased, so the radius can help out. Maybe if you're playing in a group, it's kind of like the only ones that I felt were on the super defensive side, and a lot of these will not work because some of these are like defensive ones. But if you are playing a build that can make use out of fortification, it depends on your build. This could be technically in the offensive section as well to get extra damage, because some bonuses will work off of being well fortified, so this could be great as well. But I'll link all these down below. These are going to be some of the best ones, whether you want to do like universally good, like the overall good one, or if you need more defenses while you're leveling, or if you want to do burst damage, or if you want to sit there AFK and let the pet do its job. This is going to be the one for you. Anyways, thanks for tuning, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell if you want to see more Diablo guides and other gaming content. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.